Welcome to the channel Darkness in the Night. Before the story begins, let me remind you once again that everything you are about to hear is entirely fictional. Created from folk elements, oral tales, and imagination, purely for storytelling and entertainment purposes. But sometimes, what is fictional feels chillingly close to real life. My name is Nguyen Van Hung. I am a long-haul truck driver running the north-south route. 18 years on the road, spending most of my life inside a cramped cabin, eating and sleeping with the steering wheel, engine oil, and the smell of gasoline smoke soaked deep into my skin. After the divorce, I no longer had a home to return to. The old imported Freightliner became my shelter, my bedroom, my kitchen, the place where I talked to myself through endless nights. I grew used to loneliness, used to driving across the invisible borders between provinces. But there were nights when the road was no longer just a road. That night, I remember it clearly. There was no moon. Wind from the sea swept up over High Van Pass, carrying the salty scent mixed with the damp smell of old forest. The dashboard clock showed nearly 2 in the morning. The fuel gauge dropped to the red line, blinking mockingly. I turned on the GPS. The pale blue screen showed a winding road, and a single line of text made my heart sink. No gas stations within a 40-kilometer radius. The engine rumbled steadily, but I could hear every beat of my own heart in my chest. If the truck stalled in the middle of the pass, I would have no choice but to wait for daylight, or worse. I had heard plenty of stories about High Van at night, but I kept reassuring myself, 18 years on the road, what haven't I seen? Just as that thought crossed my mind, a dim yellow light suddenly flickered ahead. Not headlights, not a flashlight. It stood still, wavering, like a giant firefly in the fog. I squinted, my heart pounding faster. A gas station. It sat tucked against the mountainside, small and old, resembling the kind of stations from the subsidy era I had only seen in faded black and white photos. The signboard's paint was peeling, leaving only 2 barely visible words: fuel. No fence, no restroom, no other vehicles. The GPS remained silent, as if dead. I pulled over. When the wheels came to a full stop, the silence was so deep I could hear the metal cooling. The faint chirping of insects blending with the wind slipping through the treetops. Sounding like someone whispering, the stench of old gasoline mixed with damp mildew rose thick in the air. A man stepped out of the darkness. He looked to be in his early 60s. Thin, slightly hunched. His face was deeply wrinkled, skin darkened by the sun, his smile revealing blackened teeth stained by betel nut. His eyes were not bright, yet they examined me closely, as if weighing something unseen. "Running the pass this late, huh?" he said, his hoarse voice cutting through the air, the wind hissing softly behind him. I swallowed and nodded. At that moment, I had no other choice. "Yes, sir, I'm almost out of gas." He didn't answer right away. He turned back inside and dragged out an old fuel hose. The pump clattered noisily, each drop of fuel falling with a sound I could clearly hear. While waiting, he stared straight at me, an expression that felt both pitiful and cautionary. "How long have you been running this route?" he asked. More than 10 years now." He let out a soft snort, then suddenly reached inside his jacket and pulled out a dagger. The handle was made of buffalo horn, polished smooth from years of use, the blade honed to a razor edge. He pressed the knife into my hand. The cold metal made me shudder. "Take it." His voice dropped, all trace of humor gone. I froze, staring at the knife, then at him. "Sir, what is this for?" He stepped closer. I caught the smell of betel nut, strong tobacco, and something dank and hard to name, like soil that had not seen sunlight for years. "Listen carefully," he said, his voice slow but heavy, pressing on my chest like stone. "Do not stop your vehicle. No matter who cries for help, woman, child, or old person, especially on the southern stretch of the pass. He paused, locking his eyes onto mine. For the past 3 months, 7 drivers have gone missing. Their engines were still running. Their lights were still on. The people were gone. The wind picked up, rattling the signboard overhead. A chill ran straight down my spine. Sir, is that true? My voice trembled despite my effort to stay calm. He didn't smile. His wrinkled face hardened. His eyes darkened. If you want to live, remember what I said. With that, he turned and disappeared into the darkness. The gas station fell silent again, as if no one had ever stood there. The tank was somehow already full. I scrambled back into the cab, started the engine, and drove off, my hand still clenched tightly around the icy dagger. As I descended the pass, the fog grew thicker. The headlights swept across the soaking wet road. I tried not to think about what I just heard, but images of abandoned trucks stranded in the night kept flashing through my mind. Then I saw her. A young woman stood in the middle of the road, her white dress drenched, her long hair hanging over half her face. She waved frantically, running as she cried. Her sobbing pierced through the thick glass, wrenching at my gut. My foot hit the brake by instinct. The truck slowed. In that instant, the image of the old gas station man filled my head, along with the freezing weight of the dagger in my hand. Please, help me, her voice broke, weak and desperate. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, my heart pounding out of control. I did not stop. I slammed the accelerator. The girl suddenly lifted her head. The fear vanished from her face. Her eyes were wide open, too much white showing, her lips pressed tight, her expression twisting into something furious and warped. She sprinted after the truck at a speed no normal human could reach. In the rearview mirror, I saw figures emerge from both sides of the bushes, men stepping onto the road. They held machetes, steel flashing in the headlights. No one spoke, they just stood there, as if waiting. Don't stop, the old man's voice echoed inside my head. I screamed to myself and floored the gas. The engine roared, the speedometer needle shaking violently. The girl and the figures were left behind, swallowed by the fog. When I dared to look back one last time, the road behind me was empty. No girl, no men, only the howling wind and my heart pounding as if it might burst out of my chest. But what chilled me the most was when I glanced at the clock and realized I had descended the pass far too fast, faster than usual, as if something had just let me go, temporarily. After that night on High Van Pass, I never turned back. I reached Da Nang while it was still pitch dark, my back soaked with sweat despite the night wind cutting into my skin. I pulled over to the roadside, shut off the engine, and sat motionless in the cab, my ears still ringing with the sound of wind and my own heart pounding wildly. The dagger from the old gas station attendant lay on the passenger seat, a sliver of steel glinting under the weak yellow light. I didn't know why I was still keeping it, but I felt that if I let go, something would immediately come crashing down on me. Dawn slowly arrived. The streets grew busier, the noise of motorbikes, people talking and laughing, dragging me back to reality. I tried to convince myself it had all been exhaustion. The late hour, my imagination running wild, but the damp, musty smell still lingered in my nose, vivid and undeniable. 3 days later, I was back on the road. A shipment had to be delivered urgently to Ha Tin. On the 4th night, I was driving along National Highway 1A, near the border between Quang Binh and Ha Tin. Winter rain drizzled lightly, fog so thick that the headlights reached only a few dozen meters ahead. The road was long and narrow, flanked by dark sand hills on both sides, no houses, no lights. I slowed down. On stretches like this, accidents happened all the time. And then I saw him. An old man stood alone by the roadside. He wore a worn plastic raincoat, torn in places, clinging to his thin frame. In his hand was a faded cloth bag. He stood very straight, didn't wave, didn't step into the road, he simply watched my truck approach. His gaze eerily calm. I hesitated. The warning from Hivan echoed in my head. Don't stop the vehicle. But this old man wasn't crying, wasn't chasing after me, wasn't blocking the road, just an elderly man standing in the cold rain. I hit the brakes. When I opened the cab door, icy rain splashed against my face. The old man climbed up slowly, his movements so light I barely heard his shoes touch the steps. "Please, give me a ride to Vin," he said, his voice hoarse but clear, eyes looking straight at me. I studied him for a moment. A thin face, deeply lined, messy white hair. Nothing seemed particularly unusual. "Sure, hop in." He sat down in the passenger seat. When the door closed, the cabin suddenly felt unnaturally quiet. I realized I could no longer hear the rain hitting the windshield. As if the sound had been swallowed. "It's really cold tonight," the old man said, pulling his collar tighter, his voice flat. "Yes, this time of year it's always like that around here." The truck rolled on. For a long while, neither of us spoke. I focused on the road, though the corner of my eye kept drifting to the passenger seat. The old man sat perfectly upright, both hands resting on the cloth bag, completely still. "You've been driving a long time?" he finally asked, his voice low and slow. "Yes, 18 years. Then you must have seen a lot of strange things." My hand stiffened on the steering wheel. I forced a weak smile. "Yes, a few." The old man nodded, his gaze fixed on the fog ahead. "A lot of people have gone missing on this stretch," he said calmly. "Vehicles left by the roadside. Engines still running, but the people are nowhere to be found." I swallowed hard. A faint smell drifted through the cab, the scent of damp earth. Rotting moss, light, but unmistakable. "Sir, who told you that?" I asked quietly. "I used to study this area," he replied evenly. "The geology here is complicated. Sand hills, sinkholes, and on top of that, things that should not be disturbed." He turned to look at me. His eyes were deep and dark. "There are legends about the hungry ghosts. Spirits who starved to death during wartime. They disguise themselves as familiar faces, loved ones, or stranded travelers to lure drivers into stopping." My throat went dry. The dagger in the glove compartment felt heavier somehow. "Sir, those stories, they're probably just superstition," I said, though I didn't even believe my own words. The old man gave a faint smile, thin, showing no teeth. "There are some things," he said softly, "that you don't get to disbelieve." The truck kept moving through the rain. Time began to stretch unnaturally. I felt as if we had been driving for ages. Yet the road signs kept repeating the same familiar place names, as if we were moving in circles. When we finally reached a rest stop in Ha Tin, I let out a long breath of relief. White neon lights glared overhead. A few other trucks scattered around the lot. I turned to the passenger seat. "We're here, sir." No answer. The seat was empty. No cloth bag, no raincoat, no strange smell. Only the familiar scent of engine oil. The door was still tightly shut. I froze, my heart pounding. I was certain I hadn't stopped the truck along the way. I got out and searched around the rest stop. No one had seen any old man matching my description. Another driver looked at me with confusion. "Who are you looking for?" "An old man, he rode with me." My voice faltered. "In weather like this, no one standing by the road." The driver shook his head. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I opened my phone and typed a few words into the search bar. "Missing geologist Quang Bin." An old article appeared, a black and white photo. The missing person's name, Nguyen Van Tu, disappeared 4 years ago, on the exact stretch of road I had just driven. I stared at the photo. The face wasn't the same as the old man from last night. But the eyes, that calm, chilling gaze, were identical. I turned off the phone and sat silently in the cab. Outside, traffic roared past as usual. But in my mind, there was only one thought. I had begun to see things I was never meant to see. And from that moment on, I understood the road ahead would never be normal again. After that night in Ha Tin, I began to fear rest stops. In the past, roadside eateries along the highway had been a lifeline for drivers like me. A place to fill your stomach and trade a few life stories to ease the loneliness. But after meeting the hitchhiking old man, every time I saw a lone diner light glowing in the night, my stomach tightened, as if an invisible hand were squeezing it. That night, I was driving through Nguyen, heading toward Tan Hoa. The clock showed nearly 11 p.m. I was so hungry my vision blurred. My stomach growling painfully. It wasn't raining, but thick fog covered the road completely. Wherever my headlights reached, the darkness simply retreated, no more, no less. Just as I was about to force myself to keep going without food, a small diner appeared on the right side of the road. Its sign hung crookedly, flickering fluorescent light revealing the words, "Hot Meals 24/7 Fresh Beef Daily." The place sat right at the roadside, with nothing but pitch-black abandoned fields behind it. I pulled over. The parking area was fairly large, with 4 or 5 trucks already parked. That alone made me feel a bit safer. I stepped out, the night wind carrying the smell of hot rice and familiar grease, making my stomach churn even harder. Inside, the diner was brighter than I expected. A few old wooden tables were packed closely together. There were customers, but all of them sat perfectly still. No one spoke, no one lifted their chopsticks. The utensils lay neatly on their bowls, as if for decoration only. I felt a twinge of unease, but hunger won. A woman came out from the kitchen. She looked to be in her early 30s. Round face, pale skin, red lips, her smile unnaturally wide. Under the harsh light, her skin looked glossy and cold. "You here for a meal?" she asked sweetly, her smile never fading. "Yes, rice with beef, please." She nodded and went back into the kitchen. I sat at an empty table. As I pulled out the chair, I noticed how strangely clean the floor was, not a single oil stain, not a grain of rice. The plate arrived quickly. White rice, hot, steaming. The beef was glossy with oil, dark in color, fragrant but oddly sweet. I took the first bite. Sweetness spread across my tongue, followed by a faint metallic tang, like diluted blood. I frowned, but I was too hungry, so I kept eating. "Make sure you finish everything," the woman said as she set down a glass of iced tea. Her eyes fixed on me. "House rule." "Sure," I replied absent-mindedly. The diner remained silent. I glanced at the other tables. The customers hadn't moved at all, eyes wide open, staring at their plates like wax statues. The air grew heavier. I could hear myself chewing, hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. The smell of beef was no longer appetizing, it was distinctly bloody now, mixed with a harsh metallic scent. Halfway through the meal, nausea surged. I put my chopsticks down. "Miss, could I get the bill?" The woman was suddenly standing right in front of me. Her smile was still there, but her eyes weren't smiling. "You haven't finished," she said softly, slowly. "I'm full. I'll pay and be on my way." She tilted her head, her hair falling over one cheek. Her smile widened, revealing perfectly white teeth, but her eyes darkened. "No one leaves this place," she said quietly. "Before finishing the meal I cook." My heart lurched. I sprang to my feet. Instantly, every other customer lifted their heads at the same time, eyes wide open. Far too much white showing. No one spoke, but I could feel dozens of gazes pinning me in place. "I'm sorry," My voice trembled, my hand instinctively tightening around the dagger in my pocket. I moved quickly toward the door. The woman stepped in front of me. The smell coming from her was no longer food, it was the thick, sickening stench of raw meat left too long. "Sit down and keep eating," she whispered, so close I felt her cold breath on my face. I didn't answer. I lunged for the door and shoved hard. It flew open. Night wind slammed into me, icy and sharp. I ran like I never had before, straight for my truck. But when I climbed into the cab, my hands shaking so badly I almost couldn't get the key into the ignition. I looked around. The parking lot was empty. No other trucks, no tire tracks, no engine noise, as if I were the only one who had ever existed there. The engine roared to life. I floored the gas and took off. Only when the diner's light finally disappeared behind me did I dare to breathe again. That was when I noticed a yellowed piece of old paper, neatly placed on the passenger seat. My hands shook as I picked it up. A list of names, written in faded red ink. Each line was a name, followed by a date. I read to the last line. Tran Van Long, June 12, 2024. Today's date. I screamed, threw the paper to the floor, and slammed the accelerator down. The truck tore into the night, leaving the diner and its dim lights far behind. The next morning, after I had finally calmed down, I pulled over and checked the map on my phone. There was no diner by that name on the stretch of road I traveled. Only a faint marker with a note, "Abandoned diner, burned down in 2008. I sat there for a long time. The dagger lay in my hand, ice cold, and I began to understand something far more terrifying than anything I had seen. I hadn't accidentally wandered into those places. It was as if they were coming for me, one by one. And somewhere along the roads ahead, something was waiting, more patient, more vicious, ready to drag me down the moment I slipped. After that roadside diner night, I no longer trusted what my eyes showed me. I drove non-stop, never daring to stay too long anywhere. When exhaustion hit, I would only pull over briefly, draw the cab curtain, close my eyes for a few dozen minutes, then keep going. Every time I shut my eyes, the images returned, those hollow stares in the diner, the whites of their eyes exposed, watching me as if I were still living meat. The dagger from the old gas station remained in the compartment. I no longer thought of it as an inanimate object. There were moments when I swore I could hear faint metal scraping, as if it were warning me to stay alert. I took a delivery up to the Central Highlands, driving along National Highway 14 through the Gia Dock Lock stretch. Mountain roads, deep forest, quiet even during the day. And at night nothing but darkness and the droning of insects. Night fell fast. The road narrowed, cliffs on one side, black jungle on the other. The air smelled of damp red basalt soil, earthy and bitter, clinging to every breath. Near midnight, just after rounding a long curve, my headlights suddenly swept over a truck parked on the shoulder. An old black Thaco, paint peeling, hazard lights blinking steadily. The cab was dark. I slowed down by reflex. On roads like this, broken down vehicles weren't unusual. But as I passed, I saw no one inside. No figure, no open door, no sign anyone had just stepped away. Only the clicking of the turn signal echoed in the still night, loud enough to make my skin crawl. I glanced at the rearview mirror. The truck was gone. I held my breath, gripping the steering wheel. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe the fog hid it. I tried to calm myself, but a cold chill had already crept down my spine. 20 minutes later, when I had almost pushed the thought aside, my headlights caught it again up ahead. The same black Thaco, hazard lights flashing, empty cab. This time it was blocking half the lane, as if deliberately waiting for me. I didn't stop. I swerved past it, my heart pounding so hard my ears rang. As soon as I cleared it, I looked back. This time, it didn't disappear. It turned around, slowly. Headlights flared on, shining straight into my mirrors. Then it started chasing me. The distance between us closed fast. I floored the accelerator, the engine revving high, but the truck behind stayed right on me. As if speed and gravity meant nothing. Its headlights flooded my cab, blindingly bright. My radio suddenly switched on by itself. Static hissed, and through it came a man's voice, hoarse, distorted, like it was coming from a dying speaker. Turn back to where you came from." I slammed my hand against the radio. But the sound didn't stop. "Don't go on, don't carry it anymore." The voice felt close, too close, like it was right behind me. Cold sweat broke out at the back of my neck, running down my spine. I didn't dare look back. The truck behind accelerated. A violent impact slammed into my rear, shaking the cab. I screamed, fought the wheel to keep control. Metal shrieked against metal, echoing through the forest night. "Turn back," the voice snarled, thick with rage. I reached into the compartment and grabbed the dagger. The blade was ice cold, but the sensation cleared my head just enough. Ahead, in the thick fog, a figure appeared. Very tall, nearly 7 feet. Its body was grotesquely thin, arms and legs long like sticks. Its skin was pale white. No eyes, no nose, just a blurred emptiness where a face should be. It stood motionless in the middle of the road. I had no time to think. I hit the gas and drove straight at it. In the instant the headlights struck it fully, I saw that its surface wasn't flesh at all, but dense mist, gently shifting. I passed straight through. No impact, no sound. The figure dissolved like smoke and vanished. Immediately after, the truck behind me vanished as well. The radio went dead, leaving a crushing silence. I didn't stop until dawn. When the first sunlight filtered through the trees, I finally pulled over at a roadside coffee stand. My hands shook so badly I spilled my coffee. A middle-aged man at the next table looked at me closely. "You drove the Pren Pass last night, didn't you?" he asked, his voice low and slow. I jolted. "Yes, how did you know?" He sighed and took a sip of coffee. "That stretch has a driverless truck. Belonged to a trucker who died over 30 years ago. Died hauling illegal timber. Folks call him Old Man of the Pass." I stayed silent, my throat dry. He doesn't like people transporting forbidden cargo through his mountain. Running into him and surviving, you're lucky. I stared out at the road ahead. The sun was up, traffic growing heavier. Everything looked normal. But in my head, the crash and that hoarse voice still echoed. I understood something then. From the moment I stepped into that gas station at night, I stopped being an ordinary truck driver. And I sensed that the things I was encountering on the road weren't appearing by chance. They were testing me, or preparing me to face something far worse, somewhere ahead, where the road would offer no chance to turn back. After that night on Pren Pass, I no longer drove the way I used to. Not because of fear, but because I began to realize something far more terrifying. I remembered those things. I remembered them vividly. The smell of damp red soil rising as the ghost truck closed in behind me. The hoarse voice crackling through the radio. And most frightening of all, I no longer felt they were completely unfamiliar. I continued my delivery down toward Bin Phuoc. The highway was straight and long, but the deeper into the night it got, the emptier it became. On both sides stretched dark rubber forests. Tree trunks lined up evenly like endless rows of gravestones. Wind swept through the leaves, producing a rustling sound like many people whispering at once. Near midnight, I saw a small roadside tea stand. A single bare bulb hung from a tin roof, its weak light spilling over an old wooden table. An elderly man sat there, so familiar my heart skipped a beat. Uncle Ba. The same wrinkled face, the The same beetle-stained black teeth. The same eyes that seemed to look straight through a person, as if time had never touched him. I stopped the truck. I didn't know why, but I knew I had to. It's been a long time. Uncle. My voice came out hoarse. Fear and relief rising together inside me. Uncle Bob poured tea. Steam rose, carrying a faint scent of dried leaves and incense smoke. I knew you'd come here eventually, he said, slow and heavy. I sat down. The dagger in my jacket pocket grew warm, as if it had a pulse. What are those things, really? I asked. Uncle Bob looked straight at me, his eyes deep and weary. Some people are born for the road, but not everyone who travels long enough gets chosen. You're different. The wind picked up, the light bulb swayed, brightness flickering. Roadkeepers, he said quietly, those who keep the boundary between the living world and the dead from spilling over. Passes, tunnels, deep lakes, crossroads, they're all weak points. There must be someone who passes through long enough, tough enough, lonely enough, to endure it. I let out a dry laugh. Is there any other choice? My voice trembled, but I didn't look away. Uncle Bob shook his head slowly. No. He stood and pointed ahead. Ongdon Crossroads. Tonight, the gate there will open. Landside, you've met them, wants to open it fully. To drag all the starving souls up. If that gate opens, this road will no longer belong to the living. My chest felt unbearably heavy. I finally understood why those things kept following me. Not to kill me outright, but to guide me. I'm old, Uncle Bob said, his voice rougher now. It's your turn. I said nothing. I stood and walked back toward the truck. Just as the engine started, a horrific crash exploded through the night. A truck burst out of the darkness and slammed straight into my side. The cab tipped, glass shattered, gasoline flooded the air, flames roared up. I was trapped, my legs screaming in pain, my breaths growing shorter as smoke filled my lungs. Through the haze, I saw familiar figures, the woman from the diner, those hollow eyes, the tall, thin shape from Pren Pass. They stood there, unhurried, as if certain I had no escape. Stay, the voices overlapped, whispering sweetly. I laughed, tears streaming from my eyes, burning from the smoke. No. I bit down hard on my own hand. Blood flowed, hot, metallic. I let it drip onto the iron ring Min once gave me during a brief roadside stop I had never spoken about. The ring vibrated, burning hot, then softened like wax. The metal melted onto the floor, opening a gap along the side of the cab. I rolled out, crashing to the ground. Flames surged behind me, swallowing the truck, my last home. When I stood up, the road ahead revealed itself. Ongdon Crossroads emerged faintly in the fog. No lights, no signs, just 3 branching paths, black as the mouths of wells. I gripped Uncle Bob's dagger, my hand still trembling but steady. The wind howled, carrying the stench of mud, stagnant water, and old blood. We've been waiting for you a long time, a familiar voice sounded behind me. I didn't turn around. I walked on, alone, into the night. No truck, no lights, no way back. And if one night, you pass a lonely crossroads and see a man walking through the fog, holding a knife, eyes tired but painfully alert, don't call out. Because it might be me, and I might be the reason you're still allowed to keep going. The story ends here. Once again, Darkness in the Night would like to remind you that everything you have just heard is entirely fictional. Created solely for storytelling and entertainment purposes. If you felt chills, lingering unease, or found yourself drawn into every stretch of road in this story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support us in bringing you even deeper, darker nights of storytelling. See you again in the next episode.